What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Sandra, and we're returning to the 1985 album The Long Play. Thank you again to Shafiq. And we're up to the penultimate tune, which is called Sisters and Brothers. So I'm in two minds here. I feel like my initial inclination is to think this doesn't actually relate to actual familial relations, but maybe a comment on humanity more broadly, seeing everyone as sisters and brothers, not as strangers or people from a faraway place, us and them, so to speak. I suppose it could be not specifically familial, but in terms of association, like a generational cohort, sisters and brothers of the same generation. I suppose it could, on the other hand, go all the way down to actual family relations, and whether that means literally siblings or at the very least those who share parentage or a family surname and so on. It could be on that level. Nevertheless, my hypothesis in advance is that it probably functions on multiple levels. At the very least, I would not be surprised if sisters and brothers is taken in a much broader meaning than you might be inclined to think at first glance. I'll see what I can catch on a first listen. This is Sandra, the tune is Sisters and Brothers, and it's from her 1985 The Long Play album. I have to say, the production on this album is great, so shout out to Michael Cretu. And yeah, ultimately, I'm still a bit ambiguous about the lyrics, even though the chorus especially was very clear. The idea of sisters and brothers growing so tall, which seems like or would suggest maybe it is an actual set of siblings, because siblings are together when they grow up. So they see each other growing taller and bigger as they reach adulthood. Now, maybe that's metaphorical, the idea of humanity, reaching a greater maturity or adulthood after the, infancy and juvenile stage of their development. I'm guessing it's not that broad, though. If it is more than just an individual familial story, which I think it is, I'm thinking maybe it's, part of a movement or indeed part of a generational cohort. But then to contrast that with, what is it? Strangers and lovers who will make fools of us all. So then it's like, is that being contrasted against this familial cohort, whether that's literal or more metaphorical? Because then it's like, it's certainly not talking about humanity more broadly, because, strangers and lovers would also be part of humanity. So it seems there is two groups, one that's familiar and grew up together, and one that is all the other people out there, which can be lovers, which, is exciting, it's intimate, there's, romantic passion and so on. But then if they're making a fool out of you, then maybe it's, the idea that sometimes you get committed to a relationship or to a lover pairing, and then you end up, being hurt, or they end up leaving, or they weren't as true to what they said as it turns out in reality. And then strangers, people who can exploit you, who can steal from you or deceive you for their own personal benefit. So again, it feels like there's two groups of people being referenced, and the narrator is among the sisters and brothers, because I think she's saying fools of us all. So again, like the sisters and brothers who are growing tall, it sounds like they're vulnerable from everybody else. So I guess it is a bit like us and them. I was thinking in advance that maybe the phrase was actually working against that. The idea that, just because people don't come from where you come from, or look the way you look, or speak the language you do, they're still your human sisters and brothers. But this actually does seem to be drawing a line and saying that, those strangers and lovers out there, they'll make fools of us all. So yeah, I don't quite know how to piece it all together lyrically. Sonically, though, I love it. There's multiple like keyboard runs, including a couple that have this like vocal synth type of sound where it sounds almost like a digitized or analog maybe, but still like a electronic vocal. And then there's that element that it's like this big long sweep, but it has individual fluttering or flourishing within it, almost like a harp or like a mandolin or something. It feels like a really nice combination of a long stroke melody with individual like rapid fire notes. So I enjoyed that element in particular, and just in general it has that nostalgic romantic 80s type of song feel to it. So yeah, not one I think I've ever heard before, but one that would have absolutely sounded like other tunes that I enjoyed on the radio when I was a single-digit kid. So yeah, also shout out to Sandra. A couple really nice vocal moments, some nice long extensions as it would lead into the end of the chorus and the beginning of the post-chorus or like interlude before the next verse. So yeah, nice vocals, great production from Mr. Cretu. I'm always second-guessing myself on that. But again, I enjoyed trying to track the lyrics. I'm just not sure how they all stitch together, or like on what scale to see them at. Nevertheless, a cool tune. Let me know what you think, and Luca and I will see you next time. Peace.